whether it's Elon Musk or Trump or any of these people, you have to look at their actions, not just their rhetoric. These figures in particular try and frame their rhetoric as populist, as right-leaning, as supporting traditional values. And in a lot of time, their rhetoric doesn't support that. So for example, Elon Musk has been a big promoter of essentially everything the World Economic Forum promotes, whether it's UBI or carbon markets and all of these things. And a lot of his wealth could not have, he wouldn't have been able to generate the wealth he has or had the success he has without a significant amount of subsidies from the government, which enabled a lot of his businesses under the guise that they would, combat climate change and stuff, electric vehicles and, solar panels at one point and all of that. His success is intimately tied with a different type of group than the one he's trying to appeal to now as sort of being a free absolutist, when in reality he's doing sort of this good cop, bad cop thing with the CEO of Twitter, Linda Yaccarino, who frequently talks about freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. So, we're going to ban, shadow ban people again. And talking about before the upcoming U.S. presidential election, that censorship is going to ramp up to clamp down on misinformation and all of that. And as far as WeChat, the WeChat model goes, well, sure, it's convenient that everything's all in one place, but it does create a lot of issues going forward. When you consider some of the ambitions for an app like this. So of course, it would enable on the one hand, some sort of financial control, financial surveillance. And there's an unprecedented effort right now to have people link their government issued IDs to their social media presence. Twitter under Musk has been going ahead with that, very, advancing on that front very quickly. And the firm that they use to process ID verification is linked to Israeli intelligence, which is significant, I think. But beyond that, the goal is, has actually been recently laid out by Eric Schmidt, who I mentioned earlier. And it's essentially that if you are posting misinformation online, if your account is tied to your ID, then they can prosecute you for posting misinformation. Because it's not like you actually, in my opinion, they probably know who you are on social media, even if you use an anonymous account name. If you bought into Musk's monetization scheme for blue check Twitter, then they probably know you through your bank account and the phone number that you use to verify with, even if you didn't link it to a government issued ID. But I think it's getting to the point where they will require it. And Musk has made that intention pretty clear, that the goal is to verify all humans on the platform, supposedly as a way to combat bots. And those of us that choose not to do that will be labeled bots and then be deboosted from discourse on Twitter. And that's essentially, where this is going. But the idea is, they already know essentially what you're saying on social media, but if they can link your government issued ID to it, then they can open legal action against you in the event that misinformation is criminalized to a greater extent. And there are efforts being led actually by the US, the UK, and Israel to do that and label people that spread misinformation as cyber criminals in the same category as hackers responsible for ransomware, for example. So in linking your ID to that, it's very problematic. And again, I'll highlight Musk's connection to these agencies that are also pushing forward on that agenda. And this, of course, is part of the larger agenda to have a heavily regulated internet where your government issued ID is not just tied to your social media account, but to everything you do online, what you read, what you post, and all of that to profile you. And I would argue that a big goal of that is this, at least in the US, it's framed as this war on domestic terror. But actually, if you read the Biden administration's documentation on the war on domestic terror, it's not just meant to be a war on domestic terror within the US, it's meant to be a war on domestic terror between all of the Five Eyes countries sharing information